Hey everyone, I'm Casper, a high school student. My story begins with a simple request born out of a fascination with the supernatural. I have an uncle, Uncle Greg, who works as a night guard at a cemetery. He's always been a bit of an enigma, with stories that seemed too eerie to be true. One day, while listening to him recount another one of his spooky tales, I decided to ask if I could join him for a night shift. I was more interested in the spooky experiences that might happen at the cemetery than the actual job. After all, who wouldn't want a first-hand encounter with the unknown? To my surprise, Uncle Greg agreed, though he warned me that it wasn't a place for the faint-hearted. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, I packed all the essentials: a flashlight, my favorite knife for protection, a camera to capture any strange occurrences, and of course, 2 burgers and a Coke for sustenance. I felt prepared for anything. The shift started at 8:00 p.m., but I decided to arrive early to get a feel of the place. As I walked through the wrought iron gates, a chill ran down my spine. The cemetery was expansive, filled with graves both new and old, some even dating back to 1876. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the rows of headstones, which stretched out in every direction. The names and dates etched into the stones told stories of lives long gone. There was something profoundly eerie about standing among so many remnants of the past. The air was thick with the scent of earth and decaying leaves, and the quiet was almost oppressive. Uncle Greg was waiting for me near the guard shack, his grizzled face breaking into a warm smile when he saw me. Despite his tough exterior, there was a kindness in his eyes that made me feel safe. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, clapping me on the shoulder. I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. I couldn't wait to see what the night would bring. The guard shack was a small wooden structure situated near the center of the cemetery. It had an old-world charm with its weathered wood and slanted roof. Inside, it was sparsely furnished: an old bunk bed, a table by the single window, a small cabinet, and a fireplace that looked like it hadn't been used in years. The walls were lined with faded photographs and yellowed maps of the cemetery. Despite its simplicity, the shack felt cozy, a stark contrast to the foreboding cemetery outside. We settled in, and Uncle Greg suggested we play cards to pass the time. I set up my camera outside by the window, hoping to capture any strange occurrences. It had a wide-angle lens, capable of recording a lot. By 10:30 p.m., Uncle Greg decided to get some sleep, leaving me alone in the silence. I stayed up, hoping for something spooky to happen, but nothing did. I felt a twinge of disappointment as I sat there, staring out the window into the inky blackness. Around 1:00 a.m., I finally decided to go to bed. The shack was eerily quiet, and I found it difficult to sleep. My mind kept wandering to the graves outside, imagining stories and scenarios that sent shivers down my spine. I lay there, wide awake, listening to the creaks and groans of the old shack. Then, just as I was beginning to drift off, I heard it, a faint rustling sound near the entrance of the shack. My heart skipped a beat, and I sat up, straining to listen. The sound came again, followed by what sounded like something falling to the ground. My first thought was of the camera. I grabbed my flashlight and tiptoed to the door. As I opened the door, the cool night air rushed in, carrying with it the earthy scent of the graveyard. I scanned the area with my flashlight, and sure enough, the camera was lying on the ground. I frowned, certain that I had secured it properly. Kneeling down, I picked it up and checked for any damage. It seemed fine, but the incident left me with an unsettling feeling. I brought the camera back inside and set it on the table. Just as I was about to lie down again, a new sound reached my ears. This time, a scratching noise at the door. My blood ran cold. I jumped up and locked the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The scratching continued, more insistent now, and then the door handle began to move up and down on its own. Whatever was outside seemed to grow agitated, and a low guttural growl emanated from beyond the door. It was a sound unlike anything I had ever heard, a primal, menacing noise that filled me with terror. I rushed to Uncle Greg and shook him awake. His eyes snapped open, and he sat up quickly. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice groggy but tinged with concern. I explained what I had heard, and as if on cue, the growl came again, louder this time. Uncle Greg grabbed his flashlight and cautiously approached the window. We peered outside, straining to see in the darkness. And then we saw it. A tall, dark figure standing near the graves, its form barely distinguishable against the shadows. I felt a wave of fear wash over me. My hands trembled as I held the flashlight. Uncle Greg slowly opened the window, shining his flashlight toward the figure. The light revealed a ghastly sight. A tall, twisted silhouette with glowing eyes that stared back at us with an intensity that made my skin crawl. The figure let out a horrible scream and turned, running away into the darkness. The sound echoed through the night, lingering long after the figure had vanished. We stood there in stunned silence, trying to process what we had just seen. The rest of the night passed in a tense, uneasy silence. We kept the lights on both inside and outside the shack, and sat by the window, our eyes scanning the cemetery for any sign of the figure's return. As the first light of dawn began to break, we finally dared to relax a little. I checked the camera footage, dreading what I might see. The screen showed the dark silhouette slowly approaching the camera, staring into the lens with those terrifying eyes before knocking it over. I couldn't take it and turned off the camera, deciding I would watch the rest of the footage at home if I made it back safely. When I finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, I was haunted by nightmares of the figure and its piercing eyes. I woke up at 9:00 a.m., exhausted but relieved to see the daylight. My uncle was already up, his face drawn and weary. When I gathered my things, I noticed the camera was gone. My uncle was shocked too. We searched the area thoroughly, but it had vanished without a trace. As I headed home, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The events of the night replayed in my mind, and I felt a deep sense of dread. When I finally got home, I locked the door behind me and tried to calm my nerves. I was never going back to the cemetery for thrills again.